All right, once again, this is Think for a Moment, ALK. I'm coming tonight with 4 points, and we'll discuss much more than that. Like I say, I apologize for my lighting. I should be lit it up the next time I do the video, and we have some better lighting. But so far, we'll go with this tonight, and we will talk about these 4 points tonight, and we'll deal with them. And first of all, one that we'll talk about is the situation that's going on with the United States and dealing with immigration, immigrants. Amen. So we'll look at that and focus on one thing tonight is the South Africa immigrants that's coming to the United States. So we have that versus having black or white immigrant look to be white. So we're dealing with that. We look at the United States in a unique way that when we invite immigrants, it's sort of complicated because we're trying to get immigrants out of the country, but yet we are bringing immigrants into the country. Now, which what we're doing now, it costs us more just to have immigrant come because we are actually paying their full financially for them to get stable. But yet we have immigrants right here present now in the United States, and we are not trying to help them. So we have to look at that as misleading. We have to look at why, and we have to look at the situation that we're in. If we're trying to stop immigration, we have to stop it completely until we get everything settled. Now, I'm not against immigrant coming to do better, those that to do better. I'm not saying that one that comes with violence of anything like that. But we have to look at people coming in to get a better opportunity. But I always thought that we should have a better plan when they come here, that they don't have to be subject to crime, don't have to be subject to people trying to misuse them, they don't have to be subject to people trying to get them and to crime to make a living. So that's the biggest thing that we have to look at when we're dealing with people coming over to this country because when they're coming, only support they have is what the government give them and what people help them with. So we have to have a better plan. I believe that we should have station, not saying that just in Texas or wherever station at the states that they can be in, the sanctuary state that they can be in and live. And I think that we should have more states participating in that, that we have shelter for them there that they can get settling in and on their way to being citizenship. My goal is, which is so easy, I don't know why they make it complicated that before they'll leave that system or leave out that facility that they have either their green card or have some type of citizenship before they'll release into the society or release into the environment. So that will be a big improvement instead of just sending them to a sanctuary state and trying to get the state to help them and pushing funds into that. So we don't mind them the United States helping them, but do it in a way that it don't take so long to be citizen. If they gonna come here and make a living, so they have to have some type of uh, anyway, some type of training, some type of a plan, in other words, to get them to the point that they can become citizen. So they're taking 2 or 3 years before they become citizen or before they have a green card or before they be legally. So the most complicated thing about that because once a child is born, they become a citizen of the United States. So to make things easier, we should speed up the process of their parents being legal resident of the United States. And I think we make it so complicated that people coming here and they're running around and they just immigrant getting help and support. But we should make a plan that they become part of the United States a little earlier. I suggest a 1 year plan. They stay within that system or in that facility and build in a foundation where we look at housing area, a place that they can be at as they enter into the United States as citizen, where they can get a job or work somewhere, or y'all just help them get some type of business that they can do, their skill level they can do. But that's something other that we can think about and something other we can look forward for and trying to build the immigrant program a little better than what it is. Now, why it took so long and still taking so long, that's very complicated because it shouldn't take so long. We should be proficient in what we do, regardless of the Democrat or Republican. By now, we should be very proficient in what we do when it comes down to immigrant. We should never have this problem up to today because it's somewhere that it's a liking. I believe that it's just the laws and the government keeping it in that position that they can always have something to talk about. But I think we should move forward, build facilities that they can stay and get to a point that they can be released into the society as a working employee, as a citizen. Now, next one we'll talk about. That's enough with the immigrant. I know it's a lot going on, and people mad, and people talking about what they're doing or what funds they're getting. But that's the backlash of people doing things. But I believe that we can have a better program of what we have now. But we'll work on that. And second is the budget. Back to the budget again, and they're trying to pass a bill that is not going to help the budget. So the most important thing in the budget, we have to figure out what is needed and what is not needed. And I'm not talking about those trying to cut because if you cut and you can't increase, and if you still spending money, the money that you do save, or if you save, on the way I seen that those that save money, they firing people, and that's about the only way they save money because most of the employee they fire anywhere from I say 50 to $100,000 a year that they make. So they fire an employee to get a budget cut. But I look at it not so much a budget cut because if everything were running proficient, like I say, if it were running good the last 4 years, it should have stayed in place and just cut gradually because we're not gonna cut the budget. It's just like everybody else doing their finance. You're not going to solve your financial problem in 1 day or 1 year. It takes some effort to set up a plan, and then you stick with that plan. But you just can't cut and then spending more than you cut. So that's what we have with the United States. We look at cutting or trying to get a budget, but we're spending more than what we have. So until we start spending and deal with what we have and stick with the same budget, we can become better planner in the United States. Some things that we need and some things we need. I'm not agreeing with nothing that those are doing or nothing that people are cutting now and firing people. I don't agree with none of that. We could have made a better plan because in 1 year you're not going to solve the financial problem that the United States have. Not in 1 year. It takes some years. It took some years to get us here. It's gonna take some years to get us out. But with a plan and each president that come on board and after him stick with that plan. And that's the thing that I don't like about the United States. When we get president, they change everything the former president had set. We were working, but we don't stick with it and try to improve it. And that's the thing about being successful in finance. That's the thing about being successful with the government because I can tell in the army we had a specific budget. We had a card that we used that we could use to get extra stuff, but it's that same amount. And what they do, I can say, because I was in the army and dealing with the army, we try to spend all that we have on the card because if not, they'll start cutting, limit you with funds. So what we did, we spent it up, got everything that we need in bucks, and tried to get ahead. But that was, and for me, I say that was wrong because some of the stuff that we ordered we didn't need. We just ordered extra stuff to try to keep our funds coming. But that fund should stay the same. If you use it or not, it always should stay the same. If you don't use it, you keep it, and then eventually you'll use it. Because then, sometime in a year that we find ourselves short, because we needed it to spend it, especially when we uh, deploy for training, we spend it because we need it. But all in said and done, it's all takes some planning and having a person that understand the economy and where we need to go and how they plan to get out where we at. But that's the budget. I believe that we can come out of it. It ain't take no person 4 years to do it. It's gonna take some time. You know, how long the United States exists, it's gonna take some time to get to that point to recover. It's not gonna happen overnight. But in the next one, I talk about this one. It's about Jane Comey post. I guess it's a post, and I was watching the feed line, and that just came across, and I seen it. But sometimes you have to pay attention to how things happen and what's going on. So then you have to say, one, why is Jane Comey coming out the dark shadow now versus when he got filed the first time? We didn't hear too much about him or hear too much about him at all. So then you have to ask yourself now why he's coming out the woodwork. I believe that it's a signal, it's a sign. I'm not saying it's a sign that he wants somebody to attack President President Trump or anything like that. But I believe it's a sign the thing to come. And it's a sign that people that formerly within the government or formerly or the FBI or former attorney general have to speak up. So that let us know that they was coming out and fighting for the constitutional democracy. So they can't stay in the shadow because if they stay in the shadow, they'll so much pretty much agreeing what's going on, don't want to get involved. We have to get involved with things, but I believe that that's a sign. I'm not saying that it's a sign that he trying to get people to do anything. I say that twice. He trying to get people to do anything, but it's a sign that we have to be watchful of what's going on and what's taking place, because as you notice, the hint was that things gonna take place. Terrorism can take place because we once had it under control, but it seems like it's coming back. That terrorist attack is coming to the United States. So with that, I believe that there was a hint for this for this country to realize that we have to be on high alert. We have to put some of the program back to cyber protection and everything anti-terrorist. We have to go back to it. We have to secure the border a little more. Not saying from the immigrant, but for people coming in and out of this country. Now I'm not saying ban people to come in, but we have to be watchful who coming in and out. So we have to pay attention. I'm not saying just one nation. I'm just saying right now, the United States can't really trust anyone now. I'm gonna say it like that because of the fight of what's going on and how we are dealing with other countries. So now we're at a point that we can't really trust no country, even in Russia. We can't trust Russia, which we couldn't trust Russia before, but right now we cannot trust them in anything they say or do. Even China, we can't trust because right now the United States is in a bad position. Even the citizen, when the citizen don't even trust the government, then you have a problem both ways. You got the citizens don't trust. You got other countries sort of leaning to trying to solve everything on their own. So we have to deal with all of this and look at it because now the United States is pretty much alone if you look at it that way. And as you were, you can't be alone. I don't care who you are. You cannot be a country that's by yourself. You won't survive. It's to destroy this whole country because the people itself will fight themselves into destruction because we're not helping other countries, we're not participating in anything. So that's the battle. And then what's killing me with dealing with other countries when we start helping them, funding them, and feeding them in other different ways and giving them stuff that they need to survive, that means that now we're liking, and they turn to other resources, and then the other resources, what they're doing it for. I believe that United States was giving people funds to count them as friends or help them out, not trying to gain nothing from them, but not trying to persuade them to do something that's is wrong or illegal. We're just doing it from being a good country trying to help other countries. But other than that, I think Jane Coleman was trying to throw us a hint, and I took the hint to be that he trying to hint to us with terrorists coming and things coming our way. And I think that's the best way he could put it. Now, if he keep talking, I think he'll eventually spell it out for us. But I think he's trying to tell us something. Being a previous FBI director, he just trying to show us something. So now we'll go to the last one, and then we'll try to figure this one out. It's a this country has lost its way, and I believe that we're going to a dark place as the United States. And most people say, "What can we do?" It's a lot of things that we can do. First of all, in 2026, all this is taking place can come to an end. But then we got to ask ourselves when the next party come get control, are they going to do what's right? Everything that the Democratic is facing now, that'd be the thing that they got to pass and try to win over the uh, the operation of the United States. And most people say, well, it's they can pass everything, but this previous president will veto it. But then you got to think about it. It's a way of working around it. We just need a super majority in the House and the Senate, and then if he do veto it, we can vote against the veto. So it's been a ways that we can overcome it. So we just got to have a plan that we don't get stuck on. I just stuck on Democrat, trying to do everything bipartisan. Something you're not gonna be able to do bipartisan. It have to be really. If you look at it, it's not bipartisan anyway, because everybody have an opportunity to vote. If you vote yes or no, you still voting bipartisan. Mean that you had an opportunity. I believe partisan when you don't have an opportunity to vote and they don't give you that opportunity to vote. But we all have that opportunity to vote in the Congress. So we don't look at it being partisan. We look at it being bipartisan. They had the right to say yes or no, the Republican. So I think we should set things that we need to pass when the Democrat win the House in 2026 in the Senate. If we don't win it, that means that this country is still stagnated, and they don't want no help. They don't want no improvement. They rather stay where we at. But I say the common people and the people that are low income, people that are middle class, we all stick together and vote against the thing that we're facing will come on top. Meaning that now, since we had changed the House and the Senate, we should be able to pass law that benefit us. And then we surely got to go back and look at some of the things that when the president do executive order, we got to make a law against that. Everything that executive order did, we have to make a law stating this is what need to take place, or this what got to happen, for this won't have this issue no more. And we got to get out of another thing. And people saying that this is presidential. I'm like, we need to cast that wherever we found it at. This is unprecedented, and we just need to throw that away because we have the opportunity to make laws. We got to stop going on what people say or what has been done. We just got to get out. We just have to make the laws, get it out of the way, and be done with it. And not thinking, well, since it's been like as is, especially if we look at the birthright citizenship. We know it's a constitution. We know it's in there. That's why it's so complicated when you saying that birthright citizenship mean that you have to give them all the document that they need to be citizen, regardless of what it is. Make it in other words, make it plain. Just tell them that when you are born in the United States, you are automatically a citizen of the United States. In order to be a citizen of the United States, if you make their parents citizen and start playing the game with the immigrant thing, make them a citizen, so the child automatic be citizen. So we'll cut that out. That being born in the United States, you become a citizen. Yes, that's for everybody. But in order for that to work, and people can start saying, well, if the parents not citizen, how they can be citizen? You made the parents citizen, and when they're born, they automatic citizen. They get their Social Security, they get their whatever is needed that they need as a citizen. So we have to look at that. They are able to accept or get some of the stuff that a citizen would get, medical, health, all of that, and have opportunity to share in the Social Security at the end if they want it and to deal with it. But all of that should be theirs because they're living here. We made the immigration thing sort of complicated, and I don't know why it shouldn't be complicated. So now we dealing with this that United States sort of have lost their way, but we can find our way back as a country that set standard and stood for right and understand that we're not a dictatorship, we're not a foreign country, we are the United States. We stand for liberty and justice. So we have to get back to that. And how we get back to that, we have to start putting people in office. And what make it so bad, most of these Senate and and legislature, they have been already been voted like 2 and 3 turns. And I'm like, where and when the people gonna realize that this is not a good look for the United States? We have to start looking at the individual. We have to start looking at what is best for the United States, regardless a Democratic or Republican. I have voted both ways, but I'm saying looking at the candidate and what they say, will say on their resume or what they say as a candidate should be beneficial for them. And then just like as we did Sanchez, that put all the false stuff in, if they lie and lie when they as they campaigning, you veto them out, impeach them out because they lie. Everybody should have the truth on their resume when they running for office or their campaign, what they stand for, and who they are. And if they falsely put document, they should be impeached, and that should be plain. That's be the rule for we can get or cast out some of these the wrong people that run for office but not dedicated to the office. Just like people raise their right hand and take an oath, defend the Constitution of the United States. If they're not defending the Constitution of the United States, they should be cast out. In other words, term they use it, impeach. They should be impeached. We as a country ain't got no time to be meddling with people that take an oath of office but don't want to stand for the Constitution. Why they have took their oath of office, saying this is what we're gonna do. And it's plain as day. And we sit by in these things. We have to make laws stating that. We have to make laws to fit that situation when people go against the Constitution that automatic disqualify them. That's in the Constitution. When they try to take rights that it's constitutionally written, it's a law, it's in there. So we have to defend that, and especially the lawyers, we have to come to a point that we're stopping nobody that going to law school, get a law and pass the bar and then become lawyer. We have to set a standard that if you a lawyer and you know that you're wrong, you should your borderline should be taken from you. It's plain because you know what's right. You as a lawyer, your job is to defend the Constitution as well, because you should be law abiding, mean that you'll follow the rules of the Constitution. That's a lawyer, and they say everybody is deserve due process. Yes, that's true. Everybody needs a lawyer to be truthful when he defending someone. If they know they wrong, don't defend them. That's what they job is. And most people say everybody need a lawyer. Yes, everybody need a lawyer. But then you have to still have some more that if you know a person is wrong and evidence show that they're wrong, you can't defend that. You know, plea bargain with in the case because you did defend saying they're right, especially when they plead guilty and you know they're wrong. But everybody is not guilty until a trial. But then that's not any true neither, because the jury see fit to say, "Oh, they guilty and they innocent," which has happened, and people still in prison now because the jury say they're guilty and they innocent. So it works both ways. But we have to have the understanding that when evidence say it's wrong and complete wrong, and not just by our ideology saying it's not right. So we have to look at that. Everything that we do, we have to understand and look at all the evidence behind what's going on in the environment. If a person go in Walmart and steal and get caught, hey, that's automatic. Only way you can fight that to get less turn, less penalty, pay a fine or something. But they got to pay the price. They shouldn't get out, especially when you have the evidence in the hand of purse or whatever the stolen item is. They shouldn't get out free. They have to be subject to the punishment. But saying all that, I'm just saying that the United States have got to a point that it's it's not that we see or used to see the United States where there was peace, everybody help each other, and everybody trying to live good by their neighbors and do all that. It's like everybody trying to destroy everybody, but we shouldn't be there as a nation. That's why I call the United States, and that's the worst part of it. And I get to the point, then I go and close out because I always try to stay 30 minutes. But states, I said this once in my other video. The United States is a combination of things. It's all the states united together. And I foresee that would mean I would get that all the states to become under one law, meaning that every state should have the same laws. It should be no different. Every state should have the same law, which every state should fall under the federal laws first. No state should override the federal law. It shouldn't be that because we should be together. Because we shouldn't really want to be in a different because we in the same United States, what we call United States, meaning that we're all together, one big country. So we have to have the same law that if you go over in one state, and most people say they're not going to work in different states. Yes, it will. It is to be a law. If it's not going to take nothing away from that state, it should be done. It should be done because that way his limit when people cross over from state to state, that everybody got the same law, everybody got the same standard, and that's the way it should be. Because why have different laws? Why set something different from other states? Because we are one big country, so we should be having the same laws in these states, and that's the way I look at it. That's what we should operate in. But that's another talk too. But we all can become a country that stand for something and not get all caught up with this one man country and everything that's wrong is right. So we become better. We can bounce back from this. I believe that we can come out of this, but we're gonna take some time. And I believe the citizen, if we as citizens become better in this country will become better. Until we make our mind up and change our thought process, this country will never be as the best as it can. And this country can be best. I wouldn't trade this country for nothing. I wouldn't trade my citizenship for nothing. Even as our ancestors came from Africa, I wouldn't trade it because this is the country that I was born in. I was here born. So this is a country that I consider my home. So I want the best for it. Leaving this country is not gonna make it better. I want the best. So with that, with all these things I talk about tonight, I believe that we need to look more closer to what we're doing. I tip my hat off with the judges. The judges are setting the standard at the moment. I hope that we keep setting the standard, the judges that's doing their job, because it doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican, they're standing by the Constitution, in which we should stand as well. Because everybody that raised their hand for the Constitution and then they want to like slap behind the Constitution and saying it's not right, it stands for something else. Well, they knew this before they got in office. If you don't want to do right by the Constitution, don't run for office. Don't raise your right hand and say, I stand by the Constitution of the United States. It should be just that simple. And then if you don't do it, you should be punished. You should be, especially when you out loud say the Constitution is wrong. The Constitution has been the same since the beginning, but now you're fighting against it, and especially when you go to court about it. Lawyers should be bored because when you're fighting against the Constitution saying it means something else because somebody did wrong against it, you should be bored. That's the thing. And then you're a judge. If you say different, you should be impeached because you're the one that surely should be standing for the Constitution. But that's a long story. But this is the way we'll sort out a democracy. So we got three form of government. So that's what we have to run it by. So executive can't be overpowered in Congress. You know, we have to look at that. So that's the best thing that we have. The president is not a one man show. That's true. We're a country that work together. But I say we have to hold on, and this the beginning of it. I believe that we should have got some training. I'm not saying that the pandemic was great, and it wasn't, because we lost a lot of people. And as well, we can lose a lot of people now because it's so much going on. But I believe that we don't have to be as the pandemic was. We don't have to be a part that either was not in the stores and all of that with the terrorists and stuff going on. We don't have to be in the position as when we was doing in the pandemic. We can live our best life. So we don't have to inject ourselves with that. We don't have to do the things that damage our economy. It was growing, it was building up. So we have to look at that. We don't have to damage things up, but we can hold on to what we got and look for a beautiful future in the United States. But I don't have nothing else to talk about, so I talked about them 4 points. So I'm gonna get ready to get off this, and I hope whoever watched this, uh, subscribe, tell somebody. I'm trying to build up my viewers. So if you watched this previously, just pass it to somebody else, and I'll see you next week, same time, 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and I hope to see you and see someone new. All right, have a great rest of the week, and see you next Monday. This is Think for a Moment, ALK.